Bang! That's how my day started. How about yours? If you were standing out in the sky piss trying to turn a bunch of tree-hugging Frenchmen into risotto de la gore, then I call bullshit on your story because you don't know shit about howitzer-based cooking. That's my speciality. Point is, was a shitty day for a shitty job. Try to stop the evil onion slingers who had taken over the world from killing my boys in blue. We were in for one hell of a fucking battle. But to start with, I was sitting pretty on my fuck the French brand deck chair, sipping a cool bit of grog, watching the enemy's mounted mannequins get shot by our main line. Since the enemy general was Napoleon of the shit variety, he'd got them basically just coming in a few guys at a time for a deadly pre-lash, nothing serious yet. Some of them got bored of being shot from far away and decided to ride in to get shot close up, but really that was the only variety to it. The only problem was the sheer number of these horses trotting up. I think my adversary had a bit of a thing for the equine kind, maybe the same kind of relationship he had with the jugs of curdled milk he snuck upstairs every night. That meant I had my hands full trying to work out which noises were enemy horses getting uncomfortable, and which were just my own men trying to develop the ability to speak through shrill neighing sounds. Pretty soon I had more squares than Tetris on beginner difficulty. And as we've all heard repeated to us since the moment we cleared the womb, musket and shot, soldiers you'll drop, stand in a square, horses you'll scare. Didn't take too long to boot the Outback's share of Oz back into the smuggy Damophile's face. You might think I was happy, but mates, I was raging like a koala on crystal meth, because I realised that while I wasn't paying attention, war boss Nappy Snappy had bolted, half his little clique of Bribe buggers dead. Somewhere in the mix, I had got the chance to ice that camembert creep, and now he was getting away with 2 saddlebags stuffed with shit-stained trousers and a body with 0 bullet holes in it, -10 too many if you ask me. Now while that was happening, there were a few guys, the Lancers they called themselves, who had cunningly not painted targets on their faces and rode up and down in front of my little firing range, meaning they were just slogging away at my cav. Turned out though that my cav were literally just swinging their swords at random with their eyes closed, as they weren't actually killing any of them. So just had to pile in more to see what happened, but we'll get back to that shit show later on. So next up, we watched some Bogan Wars episode 5, The Empire Spunks Back, as they brought their infantry up for a bit of the old Rudy Tooty point and shooty. Now I thought I was being a real smart ass by having my men in 2 lines on a hill, so that one line could shoot over the top of the other. Makes sense, right? Well, I forgot to factor in that when asked to aim at the enemy, most of my troops just start jerking around like they're trying to shake an infestation of Sydney funnel-web spiders from their loins, and then they pull the trigger whenever their brain sparks into life for a moment and they realise the horror of their own existence. Long story short, I shot a fuck ton of my own men. Not that that doesn't normally happen, just a little special this time. So the battle was getting into the real meaty phase now. All the enemy had just about come up to the table and the bullet burgers were being served left, right and centre, with a few being dropped from the sky by artillery just for good measure. I found out the French had their own artillery pissing about at the back, and being a fucking master of disaster, I had a whole metric fret house of horse whisperers ready to ambush those shell suckers. Back on the other side, those Lancers were still somehow fighting on against my cav. They had like 16 guys left and weren't fucking off, and my cav actually decided to fuck off themselves. What kind of bullshit is that? It's like when there's some dick who won't take the hint that you want him to get out your house now, but he just puts on a DVD and starts hitting the fridge. The one thing you don't do is just go, well, fuck, this guy ain't ever leaving, only one thing for it, and then go live in the street. Great fucking job, guys, you sorted it out, no problem. I checked in to see what the actual issue was. At first I thought it might be the fact the enemy had pointy sticks, but then I realised something. They were wearing hats in the shape of a square. Crafty fucks. Their own horses couldn't see them, but ours were looking right into the cold eyes of Cthulhu. It was such a damned underhanded bastardy tactic that I was jelly as fuck I hadn't thought of it myself. At least I had an explanation. Had to tell the cav to keep trying since all my 2-legged troops were busy vaping gunpowder. The other wing of horses was serving up a sword souffle to suckers sitting silently on soon-to-be steel stacks of shells, shot and shooters supposed to be setting sights on Sardinian soldiers, sadly subdued by slow slashes and slits, sinking simply into sodden suits, slicing their sinews with such superb skill that someone spying it surely would say, "Sacre bleu!" Savvy? Meanwhile, the battlefront was getting messy as we learned that the average French soldier was actually as tough as a $2 roux burger, running up and giving our men a Paris pounding that left parts of the line totally opened up. It was all just descending into fist fighting and piss whipping. It was like a night at my mate Gav's weird speakeasy caravan parties, and I had not invited him to my stag do for a very good reason, let me tell you. Even my beefy grenadiers got beaten up, and those guys eat concussions for breakfast. Upside was we killed some douche who the hightailing overlord of the blue parts of the world had left in charge. But, as you might remember from last time, these Frenchies were actually Terminators, the T-1808s to be precise, so they didn't give a shit about any of that and the killing went on. Our centre was cut to pieces, virtually everyone did. But we were finally on the verge of getting somewhere since the enemy cav had all gone and our left wasn't so trashed as the rest of the army. But of course, teaching a robot the meaning of true love is hard at the best of times, and it's really bad when the robot has its clamps around your neck and is singing the French national anthem through its titanium teeth. It took charge after charge, volley after volley, explosion after burning, searing, shrapnel squirting explosion to finally convince the last of these hardcores to leave the premises. The epic and brutal fight finally came to its funeral director friendly conclusion. People were calling it a Pyrrhic victory. Probably because Pyrrhus got his wins while drunk like I did. We had lost more than half our men, sure, but the enemy lost double that amount again, so that's a nice return on investment. One Sardinian nut job is worth a heck of a lot less than 2 French Fuckatron 3000s. So that meant we could all go to bed happy by the end of it. But no, that wasn't how it went. The French fuckity shits were still jacked up on whatever crazy bootleg speed they'd bought from the guy wearing 3 jackets in the levy, and now they wanted to go again. Right off they were sending in the Lancers again, but if they were thinking they'd use their fancy heads to put us off, then they were dead wrong. This time I had some guys prepared to meet them dressed up in some right swanky sailor suits and top hats, the classiest motherfuckers on the whole battlefield, and just to really slap those pole-stroking Lancers right in the face, they stood in a square. Checkmate, right? Wrong. I was taken by surprise here. But it turned out that the French horses, would you believe it, were fine with just hacking through the square. They must have evolved down a different branch that avoided the genetically encoded terror of right angles. Not good for my plans, as it meant my battlefield smooth criminals were getting shot, and that was bad. I thought squares always won against cav, but I guess it isn't so black and white. I thought, well, if you can't beat it, join it, so I sent my own cav in. Had no idea what was going to happen. It was a thriller, if ever there was one. Anyway, since it was basically a last stand, I thought I'll take as many Frenchies down with us as possible, like a wasted punter at an open mic night going for the crowd dive. I got some cav to run a gauntlet of bullets and body odour to bypass the infantry and get right into the enemy's cannons. Got my guys to chop their chops chop and thusly clippity clop to stop getting a cop of the sticks that smoke and pop. Or in layman's terms, I told them to fucking peg it before they got a generous helping of hot lead served right into their stomachs. So the part of the battle where everyone stopped pissing about and actually started killing each other was coming around, with approximately 3 billion screaming fans of brain-dead French emperors swarming our lines. They had brought guns, but they didn't intend to use them. They were just carrying them to make themselves feel less dead inside. They just ran up to us getting shot the whole time until finally it was fisticuffs Friday as far as the eye could see. Things might have even been going okay for all I know, but soon we lost the right flank when the Kev on both sides decided they should just be friends and went their separate ways, leaving only a few men to protect the rest of the army, and those men had to get a bus back from death's door. Soon it started breaking down on the left as well. There wasn't much left in us. Making things a little harder was the fact my howitzer crew had been listening to their stupid Evanescence albums on max volume, destroying their eardrums, and meaning that when I was there trying to tell them to shoot the enemy standing right in front of them, they just stood there looking pretty chilled. Must be nice to be so ignorant you can just stand there like a guy queuing to post a bloody letter when you're literally minutes from death. My second crew was doing a little better. They were meant to be firing deadly canister shot at the enemy as they came up, but in fact they just fired at themselves, or the ground, or the sign of Capricorn or something, because they certainly weren't hitting the frog standing right in front of them. Another thumbs up to the howitzers, wasting valuable oxygen since 1806. Soon there wasn't much left of my poor old army. As the enemy captured our whole position, all that was left was a bunch of psycho cav out on the flank who were so thirsty for French blood that they'd actually driven a whole regiment before them and were cutting them to shreds. That's the sort of crazed rampage Sardinia is all about, a beautiful sight. At day's end, everyone agreed it had been a true blue brawl, and even though we'd been driven off, the word was that more than twice the number of curd cuddlers had been killed compared to us, so that's good news at any hour of the day. Finally, I could get some rest, but it wasn't going to last long as reports had it there was another round of target practice coming in from Hungary. And even without that shit to deal with, there was still plenty of Europe inhabited by non-swamp dingo species. There was work to be done, and I guess that in this fucked up time period, in this fucked up continent, with those fucked up levels of ground up armadillo scales in my bloodstream, I was the only one sane enough to do it. It's motherfucking singing time!
What? No, not doing another song, I'm tired. God damn it, guys, why won't you get out of my house? You're worse than the Lancers.
Look at this, he's got the Notebook on DVD. Let's give it a watch, eh?
What the fuck? Why is your fridge full of fried swamp dingo? Oh, you're fucking disgusting, mate.
Oh, fuck it, I'm gonna go sleep on the street.